Hello, my name is Tim Shoebridge. On behalf of Cherry Audio, it is my enormous pleasure to be able to introduce to you their latest product, and my word, what a monster product it is. The name of it, well, you'll know that by now. It is SH Max. So, what is SH Max? Well, it is Cherry Audio's tribute, or to use a more pretentious word, homage to a certain range of vintage analog monosynths that date back more than 50 years. This particular range of monosynths was critically important to the evolution of modern music. Such artists as Human League, Blondie, Mike Oldfield, and the man himself, Vangelis, they all use synths from this range. So what I'm going to do with this video is give you an introduction to SH Max, show you its front panel, show you how easy it is to use, get you up and running with it, and to really point out the features that Cherry Audio have been inspired by that early range of analog monosynths. That's what's coming up. Let's get started. Here's the front panel. Right, so here's the front panel. It looks really smart, doesn't it? Really nice. I just want to show you one little thing before we dig into the details here. It's just one of those little things that I just love. We've got here a settings menu, this little cog on the toolbar. Click on that and make sure you have the interface tab selected. And then we have this thing here, theme. It's currently set to 5 for a very specific synth look. We can go to 7 and get a different look. Isn't that wonderful? Or we can choose 3 and get a different look entirely. And actually, I really do love this one. This is probably my favorite of the 3. Very monochrome, very nice. I'm going to switch it back to 5 for the time being. Now, as I'm going through this interface and I'm pointing out the different features that Cherry Audio have sort of like felt influenced by to add into SH Max, I'll be referring back to those original old vintage synths as just the 3 or the 5 or the 7. But when I say 3, I probably mean a 3A. And I might actually say 2000 as well at some point as we're going through the video as well. But that's what I'll be doing. So when I just say those numbers, you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's start at the very beginning in this front panel with the beginning of the signal chain, and that is the oscillator section. It's right here, right in the middle. You'll see that we have 2 identical, very standard subtractive analog synthesis oscillators. These were introduced in the 5, a pair of identical oscillators like this. We've got things like octave setting, pitch control, waveforms, the normal stuff. At the moment, we are just listening to oscillator number 1, and it sounds like this. Standard stuff, right? Let's introduce oscillator number 2. I've pitched it up by 7 semitones. Now we have this section here as part of oscillator number 2, and this was introduced in the 3A, and it's using organ divide down technology, going right back to the very early 70s, probably into the 60s. This technology was being used, and what it allows us to do is to blend waveforms together at different octave settings. So if we just listen to this portion of oscillator 2 on its own, and I start blending in, I don't know, let's blend in an 8-foot with a 4-foot and a 2-foot. It is quite organ-like when you add those different waveforms together at different octave settings. Now, it doesn't have to be all the same waveform. At the moment, we are listening to a sawtooth for each of them, but with these little switches here, we could choose a pulse wave for the 2-foot, a sine wave for the 4-foot, etc. So we have a lot of flexibility here with this part of oscillator number 2. Now it is part of oscillator number 2. It being a part of oscillator number 2 was introduced in the 7 synth. As an oscillator on its own, it was introduced in the 3A. But it's part of oscillator 2, which means it follows the same pitch as oscillator number 2. But it is a separate audio output from oscillator number 2. So we can blend all of these 3 elements together. And because with these first 2 oscillators here, we've got the ability to detune them, we can actually come up with chords just playing one note. Let me just demonstrate that to you. So at the moment we are listening to just this 3A part. I'm going to add back in 2A part, which is detuned up by 7 semitones, and then let's add in oscillator number 1, and I'm going to detune that as well. Let's just turn it up by 3 semitones. Now we have got a minor chord. Right, onto the mixer section next. Now you might have noticed when I was playing around with the oscillators, I was playing around with the levels of the oscillators. Although we have 2 oscillators, we actually have 3 audio outputs from those oscillators, which is really, really flexible, really, really cool. I was doing that here in this mixer section. Now this is not just a mixer section. It's a lot more than that. This was introduced in the 5 as well. You can see at the top here we have some switches. So for each of these audio inputs, we have the ability to route that audio through the remainder of the synth. You can see by these little legends here. Now, that Cherry Audio have color-coded them for us. At the moment, they're all set to the top, which is that the signal goes through the voltage-controlled filter. But we could move them down to just the bandpass filter. Yes, there are 2 filters in SH Max, and I'll get onto that next. But we can route the audio through voltage control filter or bandpass filter, or that center position there, to both of them at the same time. And when we do that, it's the 2 filters are in parallel to one another. Or we could completely bypass the filter sections altogether and go straight out to the VCA. And we can do this for these 5 different audio signals. We've got the 3 as I've been playing around with for the oscillators. We've also got ring mod, and we've got noise. Now the ring mod, that was introduced in the 5 as well. It's this little section down here, bottom left. It's a very flexible ring mod section in terms of the input into it, but we have control over its output here, and we can route it wherever we like, through filter 1, filter 2, both filters, or straight to VCA. Really, really powerful. Right, by way of mentioning the mixer section, I have inadvertently mentioned the filter section and the fact that we have 2 filters, a voltage control filter and a band pass filter. It's an interesting naming convention there. This goes back to the 5 as well. Now, the filters are here in this section here. This is the voltage control filter and this is the band pass filter. We'll listen to the voltage control filter first. Let me just play some notes, and this is without any resonance at all, by the way. heavy sounding filter. Let's whack up some resonance, maybe say 50%. Nice. A little bit more and it starts to get a little bit gnarly. And then at maximum, it's got kind of an overdriven kind of quality to it. It's lovely. My playing on the keys is affecting the frequency because we've got keyboard follow, and I've got it up to max at the moment, which is why you're getting that particular effect. Without keyboard follow, we don't have it. So that is VCF number one. It's called VCF because it's voltage controlled, because it was modulatable on the original 5 synth, whereas the bandpass filter was not modulatable. We will see when we come on to modulations that Cherry Audio have given us a little bit of a treat there with the bandpass filter. But this is VCF. Now, it's not called a low-pass filter because it's actually a multi-mode filter. You can see that we've got this switch here where we can switch between low-pass, band-pass, and high-pass. Let's just give the band-pass a little go. I'll set the frequency to be somewhere in the middle to start off with. This is what it sounds like. It's lovely and subtle, actually. I like it, especially with poly sounds. It's subtle, unlike its brother next to it, the bandpass filter, which has got much more of a, I wouldn't say aggressive sound, but it's much more sort of in-your-face sound. Let's listen to the bandpass filter next. Now I'm going to switch over to the bandpass filter using the mixer section. We're listening to 2 oscillators at the moment. Let's bring them down to this setting here in the mixer. So we're going to be hearing them through the bandpass filter only. And it sounds like this. Now resonance is right down at 0, but you can hear that there is a kind of a peak there to this particular bandpass filter. Let's whack up the resonance to maximum. Let's go crazy. Right, so after the filters, let's move on to the VCA section. Not a lot to say about it really. It's this little section here over on the right hand side. Most of the controls there are about modulation, and we'll talk about modulation next. The one thing I wanted to mention though is that obviously SH Max, it's a virtual instrument, it's a modern 2026 instrument. It's going to be stereo. You know, vintage synths going back to the early 1970s were generally not stereo at all, but stereo was introduced in the 5. There was a pan control on the VCA section of the 5, allowing you to pan the signal left or right in the stereo field. Cherry Audio haven't given us that here, but what they have done is something wonderful. They've brought stereo into the SH Max all the way back to the mixer section. You'll see here that we have 5 controls to set each of those audio signals as to where we want them to be in the stereo field. I didn't mention it before because I didn't want to overcomplicate what I was talking about, but it is really, really great. Let me give you an example. So we're just listening to these 3 oscillator signals here, and let's just pan them. Now, I'm only playing one note at a time right now, but imagine holding down big fat chords and getting incredible stereo width from the pads and the keys and all the poly sounds that you can get out of SH Max. It is absolutely brilliant. Right, so let's take a look at these envelope generators. The envelope generator section is right here in the middle, and you'll see that we have two of them. We have ADSR number 1 and ADSR number 2. Now, things are not as simple as they seem. If we turn our attention to the two filters and the VCA section, you'll see that we have the same two controls at the bottom of each of those sections. We have a sensitivity control for affecting the amount of modulation of an envelope generator, but we also have a switch where we can choose which envelope generator to use, and we have more choices than just ADSR number 1 and ADSR number 2. If we look at, say, the VCA section here, we have 3 inbuilt envelope generators. These are separate to these two down here. If we have a little listen to them, the first one here is a simple on-off, like a gate. Very simple. Next one down has got a slow attack, and it's got a little bit of a release on it. And then the third one is a little bit of a peaked effect. It's got a slow attack and then a decay. And then our fourth choice for the amplifier section is to use ADSR number 2, but we don't need to use ADSR number 2. We could use one of these pre-built envelopes, and that would then free up ADSR number 2 for something else completely. And that's where the real power of the modulation capabilities of the SH Max lie. It's so much flexibility here with how you can modulate the different parts of the synth. One other thing to mention about the VCA section is we have a hold control, so we can actually defeat the envelopes here, and we can just build up the sound like that. So we've got drone mode effectively at maximum, but we could dial it back and have a subtle effect. Let's go with the third envelope here and that subtle effect, and we get this. It's like we've got an infinite release going on. Alright, let's have a look at these envelope generators and see what capabilities they have. They look straightforward on the face of it, right? We've got attack, decay, sustain, and release. Cherry Audio have added a velocity sensitivity control as well, so we've got a lot of expressive capability here. But it's this section here on the left-hand side that really adds a lot of power. This switch allows us to repeat the envelopes, so turn them into low frequency oscillators basically. So if I turn on this switch for ADSR number 2 and bring down the sustain, now it will start to loop. And as well as looping envelopes, we've also got control over when they get triggered, and this is really, really cool. These switches here, so by default they are set to keyboard, which is normal. You hold down a note and you trigger your envelopes. But we could trigger them from these circuits up here, which we're going to talk about next. We've got 2 LFOs and a sample and hold circuit as well, and so we can trigger our envelopes from these. Right, on to the LFO section, and we'll talk about the sample and hold as well. LFOs, we have two of them. You'll see here, top left on the panel. Very, very similar in terms of their capabilities. In fact, they are identical in terms of their capabilities, apart from the waveforms that they generate. And this is going back to the original SH series back in the early 1970s. LFO number 1 has got the ability to generate a sawtooth or a reverse sawtooth, whereas LFO number 2 is capable of generating a number of waveforms. We've got triangle wave, sine wave, and square wave. And with all of those vintage synths, the ability to use those LFOs is basically about following the orange lines across the top of the synth. You'll see that we can use these different waveforms for different modulations as we go left to right from the VCO section through to the filters and the amplifiers. So we can do, the classic vibrato effects for our oscillators. And for our VCA, we can get classic tremolo effects. We've got, with both of our LFOs, we've got a delay time control, so we can delay the onset of the LFO. For nice expressive control. But it's not just the oscillators that we can modulate the pitch of with these LFOs. I'm going to talk about the sample and hold circuit next, because this is really cool. Now, I would say that I think that sample and hold in one form or another has been in this original vintage synth series right from the very beginning, right from the 1000. I think that had a random note generator section to it, or a control to it. Here with SH Max, we've got a very comprehensive sample and hold section. So we can do the normal things, which is using a random noise source and do this kind of stuff. We've got a lag time, so we can smooth out those samples until they're very smooth. But where the LFOs kick in is we can use the LFOs as a source for sampling as well. So let's hear what happens if I use, say, the sawtooth wave and I slow it really down a lot and then use that and sample that sawtooth wave to affect the pitch of VCO number 1 instead. We get wonderful glissando effects. So great for special effects, of course, but also there's a musical capability there as well with the sample and hold circuit. What else to mention about the LFOs? We have got some controls down here which really do increase the flexibility of them. The same way that we can loop an envelope and turn it into an LFO, we can unloop our LFOs and turn them into envelope generators. So we have got this one-shot switch here for each of them. We've got a switch here that will enable us to resync the phase of the envelope whenever we hold down a note. Great for creating a one-shot envelope effect. And of course, Cherry Audio, like they do with all of their synths, have give us the ability to sync the LFOs to clock because we've got MIDI built in, unlike those original synths way back in the 1970s. So the SH-Max is really a modulation monster. It really honestly is. And there's some more aspects to modulation that I want to just try and briefly mention, because I think they really are worth mentioning. Going back to the modulations of the filters. Now, I said at the beginning when talking about the filters that we had a voltage-controlled filter, which is modulatable, and a bandpass filter, which was not modulatable. Now, this is going back to the original 5 synth. And the only way to modulate your bandpass filter was to actually reach out and change the controls yourself. There was no way of automating it. What Cherry Audio have done, thank you very, very much, Cherry Audio, is they've added the ability to modulate the bandpass filter as well, which really does step it up a notch in terms of its usefulness. And then talking about modulations for the filters, in the original 5 synth, the VCF, the voltage control filter, was only modulatable using LFOs, whereas here we have the ability to do frequency modulation of filter cutoff as well. This was something that was introduced in the 7. And talking of the 7, another modulation capability is this Autobend section down here. This is a dedicated envelope, yet another inbuilt envelope that allows us to do pitch bend up or down, individual control over the oscillators here. But if I just do it for VCO number 1, so that's the pitch bend down or a pitch bend up. And we've got control over the time of it. Really useful for hard sync, or we have weak sync. Actually, I haven't mentioned that with the oscillators, but we've got the ability to synchronize these two oscillators together. So with this Autobend, you can get some really wonderful classic sync sounds out of the oscillators. A final section I want to talk about here, just very, very briefly touch upon it, if you'll excuse the pun. Touch effect control. I think this is inspired going all the way back to the 2000. This is the first time I mentioned the 2000. That had a touch effect section for how the sound is modulated with monophonic aftertouch. Here, and it's a standard thing now that Cherry Audio add to all of their instruments, is the ability to have very, very flexible modulation of not just mono aftertouch, but poly aftertouch. And if I click on this little sign here, you'll see all of the various destinations. It's a very, very comprehensive modulation capability in terms of aftertouch, and we can set up 4 of them at the same time. What else do I want to mention about modulations? Yes, flashing away down here. This little section down here alongside the keyboard, it's a dedicated vibrato section. So yes, there's yet another LFO built into here for vibrato. We can trigger it with this little button, but we don't have to click on the button. We can use the mod wheel as well. One final thing I want to talk about in terms of modulations is this portamento control here, or this little portamento section. We have portamento glide as normal, right? But we have this switch down here which determines how portamento is applied. We can have it normal, or we can have it only affecting down notes, or we can have it only affecting up notes. It's a really useful performance feature to be able to control glide that way, but also if you think about it, if you've got a sequence that you're playing, a repeating sequence, by choosing either only up or only down, you can really create some wonderful variations on that basic sequence. It's a really great tool to use. Okay, so I'm almost out of time with this video, but there's just a few more things that I want to mention. Honestly, SH Max is such a deep synthesizer. It really, really is deep. And if it was just a monosynth, that would be enough. But it isn't just a monosynth. It's a polysynth. It's a 16-voice poly or unison synth. And I'm always fascinated to see how, when Cherry Audio get inspired by a vintage monosynth and they bring it to life as a VST, as a plug-in in your DAW, and they make it polyphonic, I'm always fascinated to see how that monosynth adapts to being polyphonic. And I tell you, this SH Max in poly mode is immense, and it's all because of the flexibility and all of those modulation capabilities. It sounds absolutely wonderful. Now, this section here, far left, is where we have control over the voicing. Multi or legato, trigger modes, last, high and low, and then we've got our assign modes, we've got poly, unison, we've got single note, mono mode, and we have duophonic mode, 2-note mode. That was introduced in the 7. What else do I want to mention here before we move on? One thing I want to mention, you might have seen these little sort of trim pots dotted around the front panel. They are so cool. We've got one here for each of the oscillators, we've got one here for each of the envelope generators, we've got them here for the filters and for the VCA section as well. What they're allowing you to do is individually set the amount of drift or slop or whatever you want to call it, sort of add in that sort of like that vintage feel, that warmth, that unpredictability, and you've got complete control over it on a circuit by circuit basis. So brilliant. I love that attention to detail. I really do. The last thing I want to just mention here is, well, we haven't talked about any arpeggiation or sequencing. Now, if we think back to those original vintage synths, there was no sequencing capability in them. But to sort of like blend in with the whole aesthetic of SH Max, what Cherry Audio have done is added a really cool and very powerful old school step sequencer, and you can see it down here. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the different controls here and how you can set up your sequences, because that's going to take too much time. I'm sure people will do videos about it other than mine, and of course you can always check out the user guide. It's an incredibly valuable resource of information for every one of Cherry Audio's products. But what I'm going to do is just sort of demonstrate how incredibly powerful this sequencer is by just playing you a few of the really cool presets that do come with SH Max that utilize this sequencer section. Well, unfortunately, this is all the time I have for this video. There is so much to go through. I've missed probably so much. I do apologize for that. So please do check out the user guide. It is packed full of really useful information. And obviously check out all the other videos that are no doubt going to be released over the coming hours and days. SH Max is such a powerful, deep, flexible and great sounding synth. It has translated from monosynth to polysynth so well. This is one of the most flexible and powerful polysynth plugins that I've ever played. I honestly do mean that. It is absolutely wonderful. And do check out all of the presets that come with it. There's something there for everybody. That's all the time I have. Until the next one, as always, thank you very much for watching.